again, everybody, and welcome to Swinging for the Fences. My name is Jeff Lowery with APN Video and APNvideo.com. Our special guest today on Swinging for the Fences, the official webcast of the MSBL, is Jim Barr, a former Major League pitcher, a right-handed pitcher, who spent most of his career with the San Francisco Giants and a couple of seasons with the California Angels. Jim Barr had an outstanding baseball career. It started at USC, where he played for legendary head coach Rod Carew and won 2 national championships in 1968 and again in 1970. After that, he was drafted by the San Francisco Giants, where he won 101 games in his 12-year Major League career and compiled a 3.56 earned run average. He set a record at the time for retiring 41 consecutive batters. No one had ever done that, and that was en route to 2 complete games. He did not get a no-hitter through those 41 consecutive batters that he set down, but he did throw 2 complete games during that time. He was sent over to the California Angels in 1979 and played on the very first playoff team for the California Angels organization, which featured the most valuable player in Don Baylor and, of course, the Hall of Famer Rod Carew. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little baseball with Jim Barr as Swinging for the Fences continues here on APN Video. Don't go soft. Play hardball with the Men's Senior Baseball League. For more information on the 2020 Men's Senior Baseball League World Series or any other tournament, go to msblnational.com. Reserve any game on video with APN's play-by-play videos. Our videos include complete game coverage in high definition, exciting and professional play-by-play commentary. And here's a line shot. The shortstop's got it. He throws to second. That's a double play. An ESPN-like pregame. And a pleasant good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to Sloan Park in Mesa. Plus, interviews with coaches and players. It's a must for your video library. Live streaming your team's games is now available. Go to apnvideo.com for more. Go to APN Video to reserve any 2020 MSBL World Series game on video with APN. All right, welcome back to Swinging for the Fences. Our special guest today, Jim Barr, former Major League pitcher, 12 seasons, spent 10 seasons with the San Francisco Giants, and awfully good to have you on Swinging for the Fences. Thank you.
Start getting up here at my age like this, it's always nice to bring back old stories and times when we had our fun anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, you've had, just doing a little bit more research on what I already knew about you, you had an outstanding baseball career that started at USC, which I had a chance to film a couple of championship games, not college, but amateur baseball there a few years back. Tremendous facility, what a great campus. And then to play for Rod Carew, that had to be such a thrill, and the great history of Trojan baseball.
You know, you talk, Jeff, you talk about facilities. Of course, if you saw old Boulevard Field, the old field was basically a baseball field. We had a big eucalyptus tree down the right field line that overhung in the fair territory. And if you were a left-handed hitter or even a right-handed hitter, hit one right down the line high enough, it would hit the tree and it'd be called a home run. And then, of course, during springtime, you have your fence out in right field, and there's one gate that goes into a field behind that. Well, that's where the football team would practice. And, of course, we'd always, during spring football, we'd be playing a game, and the umpires have to go, timeout, got to let the football team cross the field, get through the gate, and get into their practice. So old Boulevard Field was pretty nice. Not as nice as their new facility they have now, though.
That's funny that you mentioned the tree being in the field of play. That throws me back to my childhood. There was always, in fact, that you had to hit it like halfway up into the tree just to get the home run. So that was that's a great memory. You played in '68. You played with Bill Lee, who also has played some MSBL baseball.
Yeah.
And then Dave Kingman, Sky Kingman, the great home run hitter from the 70s and 80s. Then you end up playing with him in San Francisco. What was your relationship like with the big guy?
Dave and I were good friends. Naturally, we went to USC together. We signed and we went to Amarillo together, played at Amarillo, and then get called up to Phoenix, and then played with the Giants for about 4 years together there. So Dave and I are pretty close. I still see Dave 3 or 4 times a year. He lives up here in the Tahoe area.
Oh, okay.
So him at different functions and so forth. So, yeah, we get along very well. A lot of stories.
And you guys, now you live in the Sacramento area now, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so, yeah, Tahoe's not that far from Sacramento. 2 national titles. What do you have a story about anything interesting from one or both of those great teams with USC?
Well, the 68 team was our first when I was a sophomore. We won that year. What was interesting about that one was I hurt my elbow during the season pitching up at Washington, and then spent about a month or so, and I was able to come back and start throwing just prior to the playoffs before we went back to Omaha. So got back there, and I didn't really pitch a whole lot, but I got a game in. But we always had to come from behind in every game and to win it. So that was special, just the way we had to win every game. And then in 70 was actually probably the most memorable year because we came right out the gate and we lost our first game. And so we had to come from the losers bracket all the way through. The semifinal game was 15 innings, I believe, 15 innings against Florida. And I pitched the last 8 innings in that game. And then what was interesting, there was only 3 teams left. So now after we win Saturday night, there's 3 teams. So they all gathered at home plate, the 3 coaches, and said, okay, here's an envelope. Each one of you get an envelope. And the Texas coach, his said play. The Florida coach, his said play. Our envelope has never been opened. To this day, that envelope has never been opened because if the other 2 said play, ours naturally said bye. And so we buy into the Monday night game. Well, Monday night game goes 15 innings, and I pitched the last 8 innings in that game too. So, yeah, 70 was really a good year. We had a fair amount of a few sophomores, a fair amount of juniors, so they had a good team coming back the next year. Well, what happens is we won it in 70. They won it in 71, 72, 73, and 74, all back-to-back.
It was 5 in a row, right?
5 in a row, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my brother got to play on 2 of them, too.
It's amazing because, I'd spent quite a bit of time at USC covering these championship games for an amateur baseball league, and Rod Data, they named the field after him, and you see all the ex-players, and you learn a lot. It's amazing the career that man had. 46 years at the helm with the same program, and then 11 national championships. That'll never happen again.
I would say probably his biggest trait is he taught everyone, the pitchers, the outfielder. If there's an infield, something had to be done, he brought the whole team up, taught everybody how everything was done. And it wasn't just his coaching or his knowledge of baseball. It was how he handled individuals. He could get the most out of a player and get you to think you were the best player on the team just by what he would tell you. So it was really fun to play. And, of course, his son, Justin, was my freshman coach when I came up, so I got a pretty early indoctrination anyway.
How about that? You're watching Swinging for the Fences here on apnvideo.com. I'm Jeff Lowery, joined by Jim Barr, the former major league pitcher, a right-handed pitcher. Talk real quick. You had set a major league record for consecutive batters retired. I think it was 41. That record held up for a while. You didn't get a no-hitter, but you had 2 complete games as a result of that. That had to be a tremendous feeling.
Well, the first game was against Pittsburgh in San Francisco, and the last batter to get on base was the pitcher. Pitcher got a base hit off me to lead off the 3rd inning, and got everybody else out after that to end the game. And to end the game, I struck out Roberto Clemente. Well, what happened was the next day in the paper, they reversed the negative, and it showed him hitting left-handed and me pitching left-handed. Of course, I always use it saying, he wasn't that good. I could get him out throwing left-handed. But he was an exciting player to watch play. There's a couple guys you want to watch play, Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente. Those two guys were just exciting players. Then after that game, my next game was in St. Louis, and I go 2 outs into the 7th inning, and Bernie Carbo gets an opposite field base hit off me. Well, when the game was over, we win the game. Game's over, and I'm walking up the runway, and of course, who comes and gets me? Joe Buck. Joe Buck comes and gets me and says, Mr. Barr, my dad wants to talk to you on the radio. I said, okay. So I go down there, and I walk in the room, and he goes, 1 second, Jim, I think you set a major league record. I'm going, what, you win 2 games in a row? That's a record? I had no idea what was going on. And then he found it, and then he proceeded to talk about it. So that was pretty interesting.
Well, then you went on, and didn't you set down the next 20 batters you faced? I mean, you had like 60 out of 61 or something.
Yes, I did. After that, then my next start too. Yes.
It's kind of like DiMaggio. I guess he had a 56-game hit streak in the minors, and then had another 25 or 30. So, it had to be a great time. 1971, your first season. You have a really nice year. I mean, 3.57 ERA, limited time. The next season, Gaylord Perry, the Hall of Famer, and maybe this will lead into talking about the scuff balls or, having a little extra juice there on your finger. But he gets traded to the Cleveland Indians, which I think he went on and won the Cy Young that next year. But you're inserted into the rotation. And I was looking at your stats, and I thought it was interesting because you had, I'm going to look at it real quick, you appeared in 44 games, you started 18 times.
Right.
Now, how difficult, because guys don't do that anymore. That was a little bit more popular back then. But, I mean, you still had 18 starts. You completed a lot of games. You had a nice season. But you came in 26 times coming out of the bullpen. That had to be tough.
Well, yeah, being a starter and then trying to learn how to be a reliever, it's a little bit different mental attitude. And you got to be, when you're a starter, you go out there, you know what you have, you pitch, and you get accustomed to how the game's going. But as a reliever, you got to be ready on that first pitch. You're coming in probably with somebody on base, and you got to get out of that inning right now. But what happened was in 71, naturally, I don't think I started any games there. I was just all relief. Then 72, about halfway through the year, I would relieve the first half, started the second half. And then in 73, it was the same thing. I started out relieving, but only for about 2 months, and then finished starting the next 4 months. And then 5 years in a row, I was pretty much a starter all the way through. So it was, I don't know, back then, it was, I was always taught, again, Dato, same thing as a pitcher. He said, hey, I need you to get ready today, be ready to pitch. So it was kind of that mental attitude. Every time you sit down in the bullpen, you're watching the game, you kind of know what position in the game you're going to be, whether you're a long man, a middle man, or a short man. And depending on how the game's going, you're watching the game. If I'm the long man, I'm really watching the game pretty close for the first, second, third inning, maybe the fourth inning. If I'm the middle man, maybe the first 2 innings, I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to the game. But as the game gets into the fourth, fifth, sixth inning, now I start paying a little bit more closer attention because that's my time. And then naturally it goes the same way if you're the short man or the closer.
Wow. I just think that would be extremely tough. And I know you've played a lot of adult baseball. You've played in the MSBL. And I think one of the most exciting, one of the most impressive things that I have seen from the guys that are out there playing is their ability, and I mean talking about guys in their 50s and sometimes 60s, they can bounce back and pitch an exorbitant amount of innings in a very short time. I mean, the MSBL World Series, you need 8 or 9 games to win a title. So, and that's in a very short period of time. I think it's just amazing what some of these guys can do.
Well, the MSBL, when I first started, my coach found out I was in town. He goes, hey, I had a restaurant at the time. So he comes to the restaurant and he goes, hey, Jim, I'm so-and-so. I'd like you to play on our MSBL team. And I go, oh, man, I just finished playing. I don't know if I want. I go, if I play, I'm going to play to have fun. He goes, oh, yeah, sure. Well, in our Sacramento league, it was nice because some of the guys, you're all about the same age, and you're kind of getting by and having fun. Then you go to Phoenix, and now you're facing teams like we played South Dakota team, and I was amazed. I'll bet they had 3 or 4 guys in their starting lineup. And this is when we were playing probably right around the 35 or 40 year age group. And I'll bet they had 3 guys in the starting lineup that were well over 60 years old. And they were pretty good ball players. So you really learn that, hey, this is fun because it's nice now to watch some of these older guys, how much fun they're having playing and what kind of effort they're putting into it. So for me, the MSBL was, when I had a little bit of ability, I played the next level and so forth. And it was, I was able to do pretty well. But it wasn't about that. It was about having fun with the guys out there because they're trying to show off what they can do. And, of course, one of the things was, hey, come on, there's no scouts out here. You're not going to get signed. And that was always a joke. But because they were having so much fun and trying their best at doing it. And that's what MSBL is all about, being older, having fun, doing something you've always wanted to do.
What were some of the challenges that because I'm assuming you're probably in your 40s or maybe probably in your 50s when you were playing. What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome that maybe you didn't as a major league player?
I never really worried too much about my arm. I always had the ability to get loose quick. Never really had any arm problems until what I did was I coached at Sac State for 16 years. Well, playing MSBL and then going over to the college and throw batting practice 5 days a week. So I was throwing, 5-6 days a week and throwing quite a bit too.
Wow.
All of a sudden it caught up to me and I had to have rotator cuff surgery. And then I was rehab from that, came back and I played for about another year and a half. And then it just gradually got worse to where I couldn't throw so much. But, I never really had probably my biggest concern of when I played were my legs. I'd get being from the Bay Area, and then my first few years when I came here and being hot during the summer, man, I'd get cramps in my legs so bad. And then it was always, now, and I used to be a runner a lot when I played. So then when I get here to Sacramento, naturally that slowly started going by the wayside, and I didn't run as much, so my legs weren't as strong. So I was always more concerned about my legs.
That's interesting. And in playing out here in the World Series so many times, people aren't used to the heat because even in the first week of the tournament, we could be in easily 100, 105 degrees. I mean, we've been out there so many times, and it's tough. I mean, this dry heat can really take its toll.
That was one of the things, too, during spring training when I was playing professionally. We'd get trades or whatever come from Florida. Of course, in Florida, they have the humidity and it'd be warm and you always stay loose and so forth. But then you come to Arizona and you have that somewhat same kind of heat, but it's dry. And now you get really hot and sweaty and you'll dry within 5 minutes. Well, then a lot of guys would have stiff backs and stiff muscles because they'd dry out so quick.
That's absolutely true. Well, we're talking to Jim Barr, who had a tremendous baseball career. We mentioned a couple of national titles for that great USC Trojans program. And when we come back, we'll talk more baseball with Jim Barr in just a moment. Go soft, play hardball with the Men's Senior Baseball League. For more information on the 2020 Men's Senior Baseball League World Series or any other tournament, go to msblnational.com. Reserve any game on video with APN's play-by-play videos. Our videos include
what team and this and that, but you go down there and you face a team from Pittsburgh, South Dakota, New York. You never knew what you were going to run into.
Yeah, it's amazing that the kind of talent that this tournament has actually brought out. I mean, there's been quite a few, not only ex-major leaguers, but also guys that were professional players drafted college. I mean, we've seen a lot of talent in this MSBL World Series. We got the dates up there right now. So far, the league is planning on having the World Series. It'll start October 18th. It'll run through November 7th. And then if you're interested in the MSBL Fall Classic, that's November 7th through the 21st. And, of course, you can go to the MSBLnational.com. We have the website up in our corner. I'm being joined by Jim Barr of the San Francisco Giants and the California Angels. You played on California's first ever playoff season, and that was when Don Baylor won the MVP and Rod Carew was playing first base.
Yeah, they were fun guys. Don Baylor was just such a great guy to play with. Funny thing is, the Merv Retman was kind of a platoon player, and him and Baylor were really close. And of course, Merv would stand up near the front of the dugout, and it wouldn't be just Baylor, but he got the most kick as a bench player, watching Baylor might strike out or do something, not hit the ball very good, and he comes back to the dugout. Merv would be standing on the steps right there, the hands on his hip, and he'd go, "What was that? Can't do that." And of course, the dugout, we're all rolling and everything, but that was Merv. That's how he got you to think without being too upset about what you just did, realize it, and go back for your next at bat. So. Yeah, you know what? On the MSBL, the first tournament we went to was I think the first year for the tournament was 1988.
Yes.
And they had 32 teams total in the whole tournament, 32 teams. And each year, by the time the last year I went, 2005, I think was the last year I went down there, I think there was well over 300 teams in the tournament by then.
It's grown by leaps and bounds, and Steve Sigler, the guy who started this thing, what a great vision he had, to get hardball. A lot of us who came out of high school or played college baseball, we were kind of relegated to slow pitch softball. Personally, I'd rather play fast pitch than slow pitch, and it's been, we always talk about the camaraderie of these tournaments, especially the World Series. It's a pilgrimage for so many guys from all across, not only across the country, but, we got teams from Holland and the Australian teams that come up. And these are great people. They have so much fun, and it's a pilgrimage coming here and sharing great moments with a bunch of great guys.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a couple of times we stayed in hotels with the other teams like that, and you intermingle with the other players and so forth. You really want to know how they're doing. They want to know how you're doing. So it's really a lot of fun to see. I got to meet guys on the Puerto Rican team that came over, and then it was about 4 or 5 years after first meeting them, Steve took a group of guys down to the Bahamas to actually put on a clinic down there, and they treated us so well down there. It was so much fun. It was unbelievable.
Wow. Let's get back to your San Francisco days. And we were talking about Gaylord Perry, and if you're a great baseball fan, you got to be a Gaylord Perry fan. Right? He was a character. We don't see those kind of characters like we did in the 70s. That era to me, personally, growing up as a Cincinnati Reds fan, definitely my favorite. And maybe we could talk about some of the guys that you didn't really want to face. But I was listening to a podcast, the Reds' Jim Days. He does a great podcast. It's a real light conversation. And he was talking to Jim Maloney, who had a great career. He blew out his Achilles tendon and never came back. He was like 31 years old when he retired. And they were talking about, he called it the KY jelly ball. How often did pitchers back then use a little foreign substance? And give us a little background on it.
I won't say a lot of guys. I would say maybe 25% did something to the ball. Maybe scratched it up, uh, used a foreign substance, did something to the ball, and it was only because it was tough to control,
Yeah.
and just it wasn't a wide, pitching back then was just it was more. I'm going to show you what I can do, and I'm not going to try and trick you. We're just going to pitch and see who wins. Uh, Gaylord, I mean, I did it a couple of times. If I threw 110 pitches in a game, I maybe did it not even 10 times. And it just because I was kind of experimenting with it, but it was only toward my last couple of years that I did that. I didn't do it my first 9 years, something like that, whatever it was. But and then when I did, uh, guys did think, "Oh, Gaylord taught that to you." And I go, "No, it was just something." Because you go on the road. Of course, I was a heavy sweater, so you go on the road, and I'm sweating a lot, and I'm trying to pitch, and fingers get a little wet, and all of a sudden the pitch does something. You go, "Wow, whoa, what was that? Can I do that again?" Then you try and do it, and it doesn't work, and you go, "I'm going to work on that some more and more and more." But yeah, it was one of those things where I don't think a lot of players did it, but you tried to do something just to see if you could make it work.
What'd you top out fastball miles per hour wise?
I was only about an 89 mile an hour guy. 88, 89, but I was a control pitcher. I could hit a spot pretty much whenever I wanted to hit it and stuff like that. The story, I mean, down at Dodger Stadium, there's the one guy that's behind home plate who wears the white hat.
Yes, I remember
Always
him.
gun on. Well, back about my middle years, going down there and playing, all of a sudden I see him, I got a game, and he's back there behind home plate with a gun. I go, I'm going to light that thing up. I'm going to throw. I threw to win 91. I said, nope, not going to do that anymore. That's too much effort. I can't do that. But to me, speed was, if it's what trying to teach kids nowadays, they all want to throw as hard as they can. Well, it's not a matter of throwing it. You're going to throw the ball firm. You're going to throw it hard, but you're not trying to throw it as hard as you can every pitch. And it's trying to get them to understand that if you're a 90 mile an hour guy and you use the exact same effort on 5 pitches, one's going to come in at 88, one's going to come in at 89, a couple in at 90, maybe you get lucky and you go 91. So they're not all going to be the same. So why try to make every pitch 91? Why not try to just throw it the best you can and hit a good spot?
And some pitchers, I think, try to master too many pitches, and I think I can't really say with a lot of confidence about the 40s or 50s, but I know the 60s. You watch some of those old games. Sandy Koufax. I mean, how many pitches did he have? I mean, he probably stuck with one or two. Wouldn't you think most of the time? Somebody like him.
Back in the day in my era, nobody threw changeups. A straight changeup, non-existent. Guys would change up off their curveball, change up off their fastball a little bit, a two-seamer, whatever. But now, it's a power game now, so it's a good hard fastball and a changeup. If you're lucky and you can get a good curveball and you can throw it consistently for a strike, in today's game, you're really a plus pitcher because you've got 3 pitches now. Back when we played, we probably had 3-4 pitches, but they were all a little bit dead. They weren't a max out type pitch.
Looking at your statistics for your 12-year career, I mean, you averaged 2 walks every 9 innings. And I know one year you had the best ratio, 1.8. You're across the plate. You're in the strike zone a lot. And even, you look at a Trevor Hoffman later in his career, he didn't have that big fastball. And I was trying to think of another guy that we had a guy, Brian Anderson here. He was tremendous. He had those kind of ratios. And Jamie Moyer, I think, is the one guy, I can't believe how good he was for so long, and he certainly didn't have overpowering stuff.
Oh, Jamie Moyer, I still use his name. trying to teach kids that are trying to overthrow the ball and can't throw a strike. I said, you ever heard of this guy named Jamie Moyer? I said, he pitched for 15, 20 years in the major leagues, and he didn't throw the ball over 75 miles an hour. And he won so many games. And to me, it's about pitching, and that's what you're trying to do, is go out there. That's one thing that probably got me a lot of times in the majority of trouble I got in was because I threw too many strikes. The hitters knew I was going to be around the plate, so they were up there getting ready to go. I just remember my first spring training with the Giants. I toward the end of spring training, and I was having a good spring and so forth. And the pitching coach, Larry Jansen, facing the Cubs, and one day, and the Cubs hit me around a little bit in the 3 innings I was out there. And after I was done, he comes up to me, he goes, Jim, you're going to have to learn how to throw more balls. I was throwing too many strikes right around the strike zone, and they're just standing there hammering me.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a question I wasn't sure if I should ask you or not, but I was thinking, were you in the strike zone too much? Because I remember Brian Anderson, who had a couple of good seasons here, he would get roughed up because he was down the middle a little too much. But you had an outstanding career earned run average, 356. So you were doing something right.
Yeah, I would say probably in the games where I did struggle were probably because I threw too many strikes. I was probably up in the zone a little bit. I was the type of pitcher I was a fastball slider. And I say fastball, but I had 2 fastballs. I had a 2-seamer sang a fair amount. And, well, just to give you an idea, I throw 2-seamers. We play in the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, and I'm pitching against them. And there's 8 left-handed hitters in the lineup. The only right-handed hitter was the third baseman. I can't remember who it is now, but there was 7 left-handed, 8 out of the 9 left-handed hitters. And I won the game 3-1 because all I did was throw 2-seam away. 2-seam, of course, Yankee Stadium was 420 feet to center field. I just told my center fielder, Rick Miller, hey, be ready to run today. I'm just going to pitch him away and let him hit the ball that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of home runs died out in that 420. I think it was almost like 430 if you were left of center back in the old Yankee Stadium. Yeah. Jim, let's talk about, because you've had a career that afforded you to play with some of the most interesting, most popular players in baseball history. Of course, the Say Hey Kid. I'm looking at I've got a painting of his catch here in the office, probably the most famous catch in baseball history. I want to throw a couple of names at you and just tell us maybe briefly a little bit about Willie Mays, and maybe we'll talk about McCovey and Carew and a couple of other guys.
Okay, Mays was one of those players where, just a smart player. Just really knew what he was doing. Probably the best part of watching Willie play, of course, center fielder. He was going to run down a lot of balls. He got great jumps. Of course, he knew how to play everybody. That's why people go, oh, man, he's really fast. He gets a great jump. Yeah, he did, but it was because he was playing them in the right position. So, but I had one game, talk about being smart. I had one game where I was pitching, and he wasn't playing that day, and he goes, Jim, if you have a question on how to pitch anybody, just look down here to the bullpen, and I'll let you know. And I thought, well, okay, whatever that means. So I'm pitching, and Don Robinson, not the pitcher, but the position player, comes up, and I'd never faced him. I didn't know how to pitch him. So I kind of take a peek down the right field line, and Mays is signaling for all the outfielders to come over toward the right field line, So I go, I think he wants me to pitch him away. So I pitch him away. He hits a soft fly ball to right field for an out. So I thought, Mays does have a tendency to know what he's talking about. But Willie was really good with the young players. Because you weren't up there, you needed some guidance. He was really good to them. The guys that have been there before, hey, you're on your own. You guys have been here before. You take care of yourself. McCovey, just a real quiet game guy. Just everything was about what he was going to do. He never, when he got in the clubhouse, relaxed and joked around. No, Willie would sit in front of his locker, and he'd watch everybody else do that while he was just getting ready for the game. But I used his bat to hit with. And so he gave me a bat. Of course, naturally, come up the National League. First, when I come up, pitcher's got to hit. So I needed a bat, so I used one of his bat, and I liked it and everything like that. Well, I went back one time. I needed another bat, so I just reached up over his locker and said, Mac, I'm getting a bat, okay? He goes, you can have any bat you want as long as I look at it first. Because if it had good grain and stuff like that, I wasn't getting to use that bat.
Oh, really?
Mac was a good guy. Played, about 5 years with Mac, and then had to face him too when he was with San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
He probably hit the hardest hit ball I've ever had hit off me. Of course, it was during spring training, and when he hit it, the ball was going to go over the fence so far, but as it flying over the second baseman's head, the ball started to unravel, and it fell to the ground.
No
he
kidding.
Up, throw it back to me on the mound. I'm standing, and half the ball is unraveled, and I going, nobody's going to come out here and look at this ball. And just as I got ready to look in for my sign, the second base umpire go, Jim, time out. Let me look at that ball. And I go, God, I was going to wonder how long it was going to take you guys. But he could really hit the ball hard. He was just teammates like that are so much fun to be around. And I got to play with Juan Marichal.
Yeah.
Great guy, just a super guy to the young kids and everything, because he wanted the young kids to, have their chance too. But you learned real quick, if it was his game day, he was pitching that day, don't even attempt to go ask him a question. Don't even go attempt to talk to him. He was in his game face day. Nolan Ryan, I got to play 1 year with Nolan Ryan. Super guy. I mean, nice guy. You watch him go about his business, and just he would have fun. He was out there to pitch. He knew he could throw hard. He knew he was a good pitcher, and he was having fun with it. We were in New York one day, and he was pitching, and he had a no-hitter going into the seventh inning. Then all of a sudden they got a hit off, and we were winning the game 6-7-1, and to nothing. And all of a sudden he gets a hit, so they take him out of the game. Why let him stay out there? He's throwing quite a few pitches. Not that pitch counts mattered back then, but so they brought me in. Well, the first guy I faced gets a hit, and of course the fans start booing me. Like a hit to the first guy I faced, but yeah, I played Rod Carew. Rod was an outstanding hitter and bunter. Just to watch him do what he wanted to do, why he was so good was because just watch him in the batting cage. He didn't just go in there and swing the bat and hope he hit it and do whatever. He tried to work on things. You could see he's trying to hit the ball the other way, trying to pull the ball. And when he's bunting the ball perfectly down each line, not scattered all over, trying to get better. He was a perfectionist, getting it right where he wanted it. So, yeah, I got to play with a lot of really interesting players.
Yeah, it's interesting because growing up, and of course not to date you, but when I was a kid, I remember getting your ball card, and and I think I always was kind of a Giants fan just because of the history of it, and the players seemed interesting. Maybe not during the Bonds era. I was a little upset he left one of my favorite teams, the Pirates, but went out to San Francisco and had a great run. But I don't know. I go back to the 70s. We had so many characters. We had Pete Rose. I grew up in the Cincinnati area. Pete Rose, Reggie Jackson. I mean, these guys they're performers. I was a big Muhammad Ali fan. I probably didn't. I think those kind of players. I was kind of I kind of drew to those guys, and there was a lot of them back then.
Yeah, you guys talk about this is a few years back, not so much anymore, but it happens every once in a while when a guy hits a home run, he really gets happy, and this and that and everything. And some guys they don't like that too well. They take
exception to those standing there and watching it.
And there's one way you can do it. You can do it and be happy. Like to me, the Juan Bautista home run that he hit, I think it was during the playoff. To me, and they said the other team got really mad because he really showed them. Well, that game was going back and forth. Every team kept scoring. And I don't know if it was an extra inning game. I don't think it was, but it was one of those games where it meant so much. And because both teams kept battling and battling, and he hits a big time home run right there at home, and be happy, heck yeah, man, go for it. But there's certain ways you can do it without showing up the other team. But yeah, there was a lot of, I mean, Mark Fidrich. Look at Mark Fidrich. He was a character.
Yeah.
A lot of characters played back in those days because I think, players knew it wasn't so much about how many home runs can I hit, how many guys can I strike out, how hard can I throw, this and that. It was about playing the game, and you played it. You knew guys on the other team, and you had fun doing it.
It's amazing. I was looking at your stats. I mean, you had 2 seasons in a row, 70, it looks like 76 and 77, 37 and 38 starts respectively. I'll tell you what, I think you would be paid very wealthy today. Just with 37 starts on your resume.
Well, that was back in the days where we had 4-man rotation.
Yeah.
So, half the time you didn't even get a day off. You pitch, and then 3 other guys pitch, and you come back and pitch again. So it was learning how to take care of yourself, how to feel, and you accept it. There was not too many guys ever complained. When I was with the Giants, I don't ever remember anybody being on the DL. Maybe you might have a little bit of tired arm, but you still went out there and pitched. Maybe we gave you another day off, something like that. But then when I went to the Angels, we had 5 guys waiting to get on the DL because there was already 5 guys on it. I don't know what it was about, but that's just how it happened. But yeah, it was you took care of yourself. You into, if you felt a little tired, okay, I can't get a bullpen before my next start. I just got to rest and let it be.
We're talking to Jim Barr here on Swinging for the Fences, the official webcast of the Men's Senior Baseball League, and we're just talking baseball right now. Jim, I want to ask you, I watched a lot of baseball last year because of you got the MLB package, and you can watch all the games, radio, TV. It's a great, I'm giving them a little bit of a plug, but it gave me a chance, and I still watch the Cincinnati Reds, still a big fan. And the thing that drives me kind of crazy, and I'm not picking on David Bell, their manager, because I saw this with Jim Riggleman, and I've seen it with David Price, and you see it all around baseball, especially in the National League. But I'll tell you, these guys today, and I'm going to tread lightly here. I don't want to put anybody down, but you see these guys getting in trouble, 4th, 5th inning, maybe early 6th, and it's just like you could just see that manager over there chomping at the bit to get him out of there. And I think, I don't know, I didn't have a baseball career like you, but I think back on times when I pitched, and when I got in trouble, I felt like I needed to kind of fight through it. It's just like life. If you're struggling with something in life, whatever it might be, sometimes you just got to persevere and get through it. Are they being a little wet hen with these guys nowadays? What do you think?
I think that can happen because, like you said, if you're going to learn how to be better, you've got to accept failure. You've got to accept the fact that I'm not having a great day. How can I turn this around and make it better? Then let's say it happens. Now the next game you go out there and things start to happen, you're able to click onto it a little bit faster, get through it a little bit quicker. We always said, the second time through the order, the 3rd inning, 4th inning, 5th inning, those are going to be your true innings. That's the second time. How are you going to adjust? How's the hitter going to adjust? And if you get through that, now all of a sudden you get into the 6th inning. Now you get into your pattern. Now, what's making it so good? If you're having a game where you're struggling, I agree. I mean, what's wrong with letting a guy stay out there a little bit? But I'm not a big fan of pitch counts. I just think guys, I'm not around how they train, how much they throw, how they throw, so forth. So it's tough to really say you can't do it because today is a power game. It's about how hard can you throw. So that's going to take a little bit more out of your body, a little bit more out of your arm. But at the same time, if I'm a starter, I've always used the thing, I don't care how you're really pitching in the 30th and 40th and 50th pitch. I want to see how you're pitching in the 60th, 70th, and 80th pitch. And if you're getting through, if you're successful, now, because we had a guy, just to give you an example, at Sac State when I was coaching here, we had a pitcher who always wanted to know what his pitch count was. Well, I knew why, because he knew as soon as he got struggling and he gave up a hit or two, throwing too many pitches, I got to come out of the game, coach. So one time I told him, I told him about 20 pitches less than where he was at. He asked me, how many pitches am I at, coach? And he was at about 90. And I said, I think you're in low 70s. And so he turned around, didn't think any of it, went out there and pitched 2 more good innings. So I think some guys get caught up in well, if I'm struggling a little bit, I guess not my day. I might as well come out of the game. There's times where it's like, you know what? Learn how to get through it. You're on your own. Go for it.
Jim, now you were primarily in the 70s. You pitched a little bit in the 80s. Who was some of the hitters that you may have faced that gave you the most anxiety?
There were the few guys. Probably the first one that comes to mind is Richie Zisk. You remember Richie Zisk, a platoon outfielder. I couldn't get that guy out. Every time he'd pinch hit, of course, naturally, you pinch hit, and there's probably a guy on base that's like, oh, no, they're bringing him up. I got to face him. So Richie Zisk always gave me a lot of problems. Pete Rose only because, yeah, he got his fair share of hits off me, but he also walked, too. Not that I walked a lot of guys, but he knew the strike zone. So, you know, when you're trying to pitch to a guy that's not going to go outside the strike zone a lot, then he's waiting for that pitch for a strike, and he was a good hitter too. Rusty Staub was always a guy that I had trouble facing him. Ron Say with the Dodgers. It didn't matter. I could watch you pitch tonight, and you could throw curveballs in the dirt against Ron Say, and he'd swing and miss at it. I go out the next night and I throw a curveball, or no, you throw it down the middle and he swings and misses. I go out the next night and throw a curveball in the dirt and he hits it for a base hit. I couldn't get him out. It didn't matter what I threw. Ron Say was tough for me. So I think you always have certain guys. It's not so much that they got hits off me a lot. It's just that the type of hitter they were, I didn't want to face them in certain situations. Like Johnny Bench, I didn't mind facing Bench. Mike Schmidt, yeah, he got a few home runs off me, but I didn't mind facing those kind of guys because I knew if I had my control and I could hit spots, I'll get you out. I'm not worried about it, you know. And what you try to do is before the big guys come up, don't let the little guys get on base.
And those little guys usually, especially like in World Series, there's so many unsung heroes. But Jim, did you ever if you were facing a Stargell who could hit the ball? He hit 2 out of Dodger Stadium, I think, in the 70s. Tremendous power. Or a guy like Johnny Bench or Tony Perez, somebody that had the ability to hit 40 home runs in a season. Did you feel like maybe you bear down a little bit more on those guys? Because I would think it's kind of tough to give 100, 110% on every pitch to every hitter.
Right, correct. No, you didn't. When I had some of the bigger guys come up, it was more, I didn't feel like I had to throw a better slider, a better curve, or I had to throw harder. All I wanted to do is, because they're good hitters. That's why they're hitting number 3, number 4. That's why everybody respects them. They're good hitters because they know how to handle the bat. I just want to hope I keep the ball in a location, hopefully down. And if they get a base hit, it's a base hit on the ground. Don't make a mistake up because they're the home run guy. They're going to put it out over the fence.
Well, I tell you, if anything, I was taught when I was playing, whether it was my dad or a coach, keep the ball down in the strike zone. Maybe because my fastball wasn't that good. I could throw well from right field, but when I got on the mound, I don't know. I had a good slider, by the way. I wish I could show you that, but it's long gone. Well, Jim, this has been a lot of fun talking with you. Did you want to add anything else?
No, I know the basis behind this, the MSBL and so forth, and I had a lot of good years playing, not because I was successful. It was because I had so much fun going to the ballpark after the games, we sit out in the parking lot and have a beer afterwards, talk about the game, talk about just that game or maybe another game or who's doing what in the league. Or sometimes we'd go watch whoever's playing right after us because we knew who was on that team and they were good ball players too and how much fun they enjoyed playing. So MSBL for me was just a lot of fun. I wish I could still play, but age and injuries start to take over a little bit, but I still have fun watching.
Well, we would love to see you out here for the World Series this year, and I know you've got a lot of friends. Val Lewis, who we had on the show last week, and I probably talked to Val about the same time I interviewed you. This had to be probably going on 20 years ago. And I was working for another company, so I don't even have that interview. That would have been kind of interesting to play that today. But talking to Val, I was, just a guy, and there's a lot of people like Val that have been around the MSBL and the World Series for decades. And the longer you're in it, the more that friendship, camaraderie just plays so big into the players' lives.
Exactly, and I think one thing in some of the teams that went to Phoenix, what's amazing though too is a fair amount of guys go down to the Phoenix tournament, and it's because it's first. They turn right around and the next week go to Florida for the same thing for 2 weeks in a row. But like I said, when you start you put together a team, you get a few guys from another team, you put together a team to go down there. And now you start to really see what they're like and how they play. You come back next year in your own league games. Now you get to play against him, your friends and everything, and they start talking. Pretty soon teams they respect one another. They know they're both out there to play, to have fun, and that's what it's all about.
It certainly is, and I don't think you could have said it any better. And we are just hoping that everything will be a lot better in this country by October, and that we have a lot of teams coming out, and there's going to be some baseball played because I don't know about you. I'm getting a little tired of watching the 71 All-Star game. So I'm kidding. I've only watched it once. But, I'd like to see something, even if it's just the adult baseball league, the men's senior baseball league. I'm ready. I'm ready for some live baseball.
You bet. I agree right there 100%.
Jim Barr has been our guest here today on Swinging for the Fences, the official webcast of the Men's Senior Baseball League, brought to you by APM Video and apmvideo.com. Just a reminder, if you're going to be in the World Series this year, we do have our customized play-by-play videos. It's a great keepsake. Go to our website at apmvideo.com for more. And Mr. Barr, thank you so much. We hope to have you on again. Love talking baseball with you, and we wish you the best of health. And thank you again.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. And until next time, this is Jeff Lowery from Phoenix, Arizona, the home of the MSBL World Series, saying so long, everybody. And it all comes down to this. The pitch is popped up on the infield. This should do it. Dan Gutierrez has it. And the Fort Worth Phillies are MSBL World Series champions. It's that time of year, October, in the Grand Canyon State. It's time for the 2020 Men's Senior Baseball League's World Series.
Baseball is the common thread that brings us all together.
Players from 18 to 80 will participate in one of the premier baseball tournaments in the world.
Makes a diving catch in left field.
Well, I think it helps you to stay relatively young, and also it's the camaraderie and the friendships you make and keep over the many years.
Let APM Video capture all the great moments of your team's World Series experience with a broadcast-like play-by-play video, which features a professional sportscaster calling your game. In the air to center field, Eric's got it, and the Atlanta Barons are national champions in 2018. Each video includes complete game coverage shot in high definition. an ESPN-like pregame segment featuring interviews with your team.
If you want to have a real keepsake, a memento for your games out here at the World Series, Jeff does a great job, and it's well worth it. Highly recommend it.
Split the cost of production with your opponent and save big time. Reserve your game with APN, any stadium or practice field, on video or choose live streaming. Go to the MSBL National website each day for the Marichal Big Play of the Day. The baseball capital of the world is the Valley of the Sun as it hosts the 2020 Men's Senior Baseball League's World Series starting October 18th.